Media Now. Join us in this fight.
Good evening, everybody. The International Criminal Court has gone all one world government and for the first time is going after an ally of the United States. The ICC looking to issue an arrest warrant for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. International prosecutor Karim Khan said the court, of which the United States is not a member, is seeking arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. A panel of one-world delusional psychopaths will now consider whether to grant Khan's absurd request for warrants. The charges against Netanyahu include, quote, causing extermination and causing starvation as a method of war. Sinwar is charged with extermination, murder, taking of hostages, rape, and sexual assault in detention, end quote. If these warrants are granted, ICC member countries would be compelled to arrest and to extradite them to The Hague. But if the ICC can do that, it means that the International Court's powers have just suddenly subordinated U.S. domestic law and national sovereignty. And that is not going to happen even under Joe Biden. Turning now to the political persecution of President Trump in New York and that trial, Marxist Dems, DA Alvin Bragg, and Judge Juan Merchant look not only on this beautiful Monday in America like the politically corrupt fools they are, but their ridiculous charges against Trump are simply imploding. Trump attorney Todd Blanche savaged Michael Cohen late last week in a devastating cross-examination and blow to the prosecutors. Now, Cohen today had to admit he had stolen $60,000 from President Trump. The president's attorney again tearing Cohen and the crooked prosecutors to pieces. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, George Soros sponsored and all, and Judge Merchant look like the corrupt, conniving jackasses they are, and all the world is watching them. Hard to imagine that Bragg won't withdraw this case rather than further embarrass himself and Judge Merchant as well. If Bragg doesn't drop those charges, Judge Merchant likely will conclude the case once Cohen is off the stand. And joining us now to discuss all of this is former Trump Justice Department official, Attorney Jeff Clark. Let's start with all that is happening in that New York courtroom with Michael Cohen, one of the two just star witnesses from George Soros's perfect DA, Alvin Bragg. What is going on that they are even continuing what is an absurdity? It should be an embarrassment of monumental proportions to both Bragg, George Soros, and also Judge Merchant and the Biden White House that organized all of this.
Yeah, it's a real, kind of clown car posse at this point. Lou, look, today the big developments were twofold. Number one, that Michael Cohen admitted on the stand that he stole at least $30,000 from the Trump organization. And if that was plussed up because it wasn't really done as reimbursement for expenses, but in the form of compensation to Michael Cohen, and therefore he got extra money to leave him harmless under taxes, then he might have stolen even more money, something like on the order of $60,000. So that's a felony. Why isn't Alvin Bragg prosecuting him for that? And it turns out that the statute of limitations might conveniently expire before anything could be done potentially under a new prosecutor. So that's all too convenient. And why would Alvin Bragg essentially give Michael Cohen a pass on that when he's, trying to nail a bunch of misdemeanors for bookkeeping offenses on Donald Trump? We know the answer, because they want to use Michael Cohen to stop President Trump from getting back into the White House. And it's just amazing that Cohen admitted this. He also admitted, that revenge is a dish best served cold, that he has all these personal motivations and beefs against Trump for revenge. It's truly remarkable. I think the judge should grant a directed verdict to dismiss this case against Trump right now. And the second thing that came out relates to the bombshell testimony that I saw live on Thursday when I was in New York for the case, which relates to this issue of Michael Cohen saying that he struck a deal with Trump to get reimbursed for the hush money, so-called, on October 24th, 2016. But in reality, Todd Blanche, President Trump's lawyer, brought out that he was actually calling Keith Schilling, the body man for President Trump, to complain about the fact that, get this, Lou, a 14-year-old was harassing him, on phone calls and text messages. And Michael Cohen wanted to know how he could strike back against him. What could the Secret Service do about that? Which is also another indication of Michael Cohen's character, right? I mean, who cares if there's a 14-year-old harassing you? And some of the text exchange was read when Michael Cohen pushed back on the 14-year-old, and it was clear that he was very afraid his parents were going to learn what he was doing. And so the issue today that came up about that is that, to rebut that, prosecutors want to try to introduce a photograph of President Trump with Keith Schilling around the time of that phone call that Michael Cohen placed about the 14-year-old, to try to say, wow, that they must have talked about the Stormy Daniels stuff because Trump was around. And apparently, if I'm understanding correctly, Judge Mershon actually has denied the effort to try to bring that photo into evidence.
Can you, I'm going to say it this way, you've seen a lot in your career, but can you imagine a more unlikely two star witnesses, a porno star, or as someone would say, a sex worker, and a certified liar, a convicted felon, and someone who's obviously mentally, I think, disturbed, Michael Cohen? Can you imagine a more absurd duo to proceed to trial against a president of the United States?
No, I can't, Lou. It's like life imitating art, in that, it's like the kind of trial that comes out of Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass, right, with the Red Queen. It's not what we expect of American justice. And, Stormy Daniels, right, she's not really enough to establish the crime. Michael Cohen, the alleged crime, Michael Cohen is the linchpin. And so everything depends on his credibility. And that's been shredded, both on the stand directly in terms of what he said versus what he was confronted with, like this episode about the 14-year-old, and also in terms of what he admitted and pleaded guilty to in terms of perjury. Indeed, he's lied to every branch of government. He lied to Congress. He lied to a judge in a tax evasion case. And, he's lied as well to, President Trump and to people who are investigating for the executive branch.
If at this point you can't get a directed verdict by Judge Merchant, what on earth would it take? I mean, this is disgusting. It's stupid. It's rancidly corrupt. And don't these people have any sense of how awful they look? And I'm talking about the judge, the prosecutor, the star witnesses. It's sickening to sit here and think this is happening in an American courtroom.
Well, I agree, Lou. And look, the case starts out infected from the very inception because of the fact that Judge Mershon would not recuse, even though his daughter is making millions of dollars in political consulting fees off of the Trump trial for various Democrats, including it's come out for Dan Goldman, who was helping prepare Michael Cohen for his testimony, et cetera. And so, it seems like it's baked in the cake at this point, right? It's too hard for Judge Merchan to undo that. And if he were to grant a directed verdict, probably, his daughter's business or a lot of it collapses because, the Dems are going to look at him and they're going to say, so look at her and they're going to say, hey, it's your dad who threw this case out. This case was golden for us. So it's just, it's a terrible situation all the way around. And now that the new things have come out about Cohen, I just don't see how on the recusal issue and on all the issues that relate to Cohen, that even if there were a jury verdict here, it could possibly survive appellate review.
The way this conspiracy against President Trump is going, with these prosecutions, Colangelo, the number 3 at Justice, going up to New York to help a 2-bit politically corrupt DA by the name of Alvin Bragg. Everything is falling apart, and yet there's no seeming urgency to say, it's just too laughable, too disgusting. We have to stop. Why in the world would they continue with this? Because this is the linchpin to everything they have in mind for President Trump in their efforts to just dismember his candidacy and his very likely ascension to the presidency again on November 5th. This is awful. There's not another case, whether on the federal level or the state, that comes close to this in terms of, in the minds, the dreams of the Marxist Dems, to cripple Donald Trump's candidacy, is there?
No, I think that they brought this one for a reason. Originally, I thought that bringing 4 prosecutions was, at least 2 too many. Why would you want to jump the shark to that degree? But I think that they probably very carefully gamed things out. They realized that the federal cases could get bogged down for various reasons. And, maybe they were hoping for the Georgia case, but this one is almost like the insurance policy. So they brought it first, and they figured that even if it ultimately collapses, that, it's going to damage President Trump in the minds of suburban women who are swing voters, and then kick the election to Biden as a result.
Something, the Marxist Dems are showing one thing in all of this, that there is every bit as crooked and corrupt as we thought, that lawfare is alive and appalling and is eating up the legal profession, killing the New York judiciary, for example, doing the same in Georgia. This is overwhelming. The stench of the judicial system in this country right now and the legal profession. I don't see how it survives this. And I don't see any way in the world that anyone ever thinks again that any of these so-called Obama, Biden smart boys and girls have an IQ in triple digits. I mean, they look like damn fools, don't you think?
It looks really bad, Lou. And look, I know you're down on the legal profession, so I'll give you some more
I'm very down on the
haven't.
Legal profession. I'm not just a little. You
Yeah,
guys
well-
have got nothing. You guys have got nothing to brag about. And I don't even want to have that conversation, to tell you the truth, Jeff. I mean, it's awful what we're watching.
Yeah, but I want to give you some more ammunition, Lou. So let me do that. As much as I would say there are some good lawyers, I'd count myself among them out there. So here's the more ammunition, which I was really shocked. My jaw hit the floor metaphorically when I was in the court on Thursday. Michael Cohen was cross-examined by Todd Blanche for President Trump, and he admitted that after he'd been imprisoned, he was trying to write some kind of post-trial brief to help himself out. And was sending thoughts to his lawyer. And so he went to AI, to artificial intelligence, asked it to find legal authorities supporting certain propositions. And AI generated fictitious cases, which Michael Cohen apparently obliviously just turned over to his lawyer as if they were good authority. And if you follow legal news like I do, there have been many lawyers actually over the last couple of years who've gotten themselves in trouble trying to do similar things with ChatGPT, where hey, ChatGPT, write me a brief about this subject, and then they file it with the court, and the judge excoriates them for cases that don't exist being put in their briefs. I mean, the fact that Michael Cohen's done stuff like that, it just indicates exactly how bad he is.
You know, even with AI, as advanced as it is and as all the promises in the future, it really doesn't hold a candle to a district attorney, George Soros sponsored, like Alvin Bragg, who couldn't find a crime. All he had to do was overcome a statute of limitations that had run, create a fiction around it. Now, this is what I'd call a lack of intelligence, not artificial. This is completely monstrous for the legal profession. And no, Jeff, I did not mean to include you or any of the other terrific attorneys out there in the legal profession. But the profession itself has a stench to high heaven. And it's going to take a while for you good guys to get it fixed, if you can. And there are so many terrible lawfare attorneys that I don't know what the outcome will be. But I know for President Trump, this is going to be exoneration, because this is just too much stupidity, overwhelming, too much corruption. And it's all now evident to all the American people, I believe, who will take an honest look at it. Jeff, thank you for helping us take that look, and we appreciate it. Jeffrey Clark, former Trump Justice Department official, and as he said, one of the good guys. So Joe Biden is trying to blame Attorney General Merrick Garland for all of his troubles, or at least many of them. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said that Biden asserted executive privilege over the recordings of his classified document interviews with Special Counsel Robert Hur at the request of Attorney General Merrick Garland. Listen to what Jean-Pierre had to say.
For one, the transcripts, as you all know, is already out there. I think the second piece of this, too, to note is that the Attorney General made it clear that law enforcement files like these need to be protected. And so the president made his determination at the request of the Attorney General. So just want to make that second point that I made really clear. The Department of Justice and the White House Counsel's Office have provided extensive written letters, as you all know. I'm sure some of you have read this on this issue. And like I said, that you have seen. And so when it comes to anything further or any specifics, obviously I would refer you to my colleagues at the White House Counsel's Office. But
and I'm sure those her colleagues at the White House Counsel Office would love to talk to some more reporters. That is her job, after all. And don't you love the mumbly pumbly that she threw out there, bloviating, doing anything she could to obfuscate on one issue, which is Merrick Garland made a decision based on what President Biden had to say. You can take that to the bank. Well, dozens of what looked to be marijuana plants were removed from the Wisconsin state capitol grounds. The plants sprouted in a bed of tulips. Marijuana is still illegal in Wisconsin, but apparently tolerated at the state's capital. Two Jordanians who were probably doing a dry run for either Al-Qaeda or ISIS. They're arrested, and they were trying, apparently, to scam or ram their way into the U.S. Marine base at Quantico, Virginia. Joining us now to weigh in on all of this, former Navy SEAL, host of the Operator podcast, Great American, Robert O'Neill. And Rob, great to have you with us. Thanks for joining us. I want to start with Iran and your reaction to what is, first of all, the death of Raisi, the butcher of Tehran. Your thoughts about what likely happened there, if you care to speculate.
I mean, what likely happened is bad weather in a bad part of the world with not necessarily the best mechanics and upkeep. I mean, not to say that we don't have planes and whatnot falling out of the sky here too. I just don't think we're in a position, even though a coup is the only way to get Iranian leadership out. It's not going to be the president that needs to get ousted. It's going to be the clerics, the religious guys that run Iran. So I'm saying in that part of the world with those mountains, that helicopter, those pilots, it was just their time, I think. Now, having said that, if we're smart enough, because there's coups happening or attempted coups happening all over the place, you see videos of people who allegedly worked for the EPA who are in the Republic of Congo, and there's a coup attempt where someone dies or a couple people die, and just not the only way to defeat Iran is with a coup. But I don't think we need to worry about it with Democrats, because when it's all said and done, Democrats love Iran.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And looking at the pictures of that mountainous region of the Azerbaijan province, I mean, I can't even imagine why they took off in that helicopter in that weather in that country. But much is already being made, that is it Israel, whomever it may be. And it's going to be interesting to follow this up. I want to turn, though, to something you said, and that is the U.S. troops in Niger. How many are still held, quote unquote, hostage? And the Congo. I mean, what are we doing here? What kind of a crazy, crazy expedition have we begun in foreign policy that we are putting the CIA and our troops in harm's way for what? Your thoughts?
I mean, I think it could be a number of things, and thanks to the internet, the World Wide Web, we can all speculate on all kinds of conspiracies, and it is fun to see it. I don't want to see. I mean, looking at the pure terror in those Americans' faces who have been held in Congo, I'm not wishing that on them at all. Having someone have your passport blasted all over the internet, and you want to believe a lot of stuff like this is going on. I mean, it could be people just trying to do it on their own with some NGOs or whatever that they start. It could be people are getting caught now because we have lost all deterrence. Nobody fears the United States anymore. They don't really care if they roll up a couple of Americans. They see what happens and they see what doesn't happen. And look how long Hamas has been holding on to hostages. We don't even talk about them anymore. Our college kids flip it to how Israel's creating war crimes when they, even on the same day, again, they're showing that 19-year-old woman who was obviously tortured and raped. And nobody fears the United States. Maybe we've always done this. Maybe we've gotten worse because we've been at war so long. Maybe we've gotten softer. I don't know. It's just there does seem to be a lot of stuff going on. But again, it could just be the internet and people as far as China pumping algorithms at us. So we want to think one way. And at the end of it, they want us all to hate each other, which they're doing a good job.
Well, I can't argue with a word you said. Two Jordanian nationals in Immigration and Customs Enforcement. I love this part. Over the breach at the Quantico Marine Base. I'm old enough to remember when Quantico was defended by Marines and not security companies, and certainly not Immigration and Customs Enforcement, as laudable as their abilities are. What in the world is going on at Quantico, and what are these Jordanian nationals doing? How far down into the abyss of absurdity is this country going to descend?
Well, the problem is we always say stuff like never forget. We always say if you see something, say something. But the latter there, if you see something and say something, you're going to get branded unless you grab, if you find a tax-paying married heterosexual white guy, that's the only way or someone who's Jewish, that's the only way you're not going to get labeled a racist or an Islamophobe or a homophobe or a xenophobe, whatever they do, until we get attacked, until we get hit. It's like, how did we see this coming? I mean, Abu Musab al-Zarqawi was from Jordan. He was basically the number one target in the world when Osama bin Laden was still alive in Iraq, because we wanted to get him so bad. Because these they're not necessarily seeing themselves as Jordanians. They're seeing themselves, if they're a part of it, as jihadis, as martyrs. They want to do a dry run to see how far they can get. And thank goodness, whoever's running the security there did a great job, not by killing them. They do have barriers on these bases that come up real quick. You've seen them, around the Capitol and Hollywood and stuff like that. And they stopped them. But these two dudes were doing something, driving a truck, saying they're taking a package somewhere, wanting to see how close they could get the package to wherever they want to deliver it. Next time it could be a boat full of ammonium nitrate. It's got to be something like that. But open borders like this, the saying that, and I keep reiterating, the saying is they always said that the Americans have the clocks, but we have the time. And just because we've forgotten about a war with ISIS doesn't mean they have. Just because we fought, I mean, Al-Qaeda is even worse, because ISIS wants to stab you in the front as they burn you alive. Al-Qaeda stabs you in the back, and there's a lot more of them.
Right, without a doubt. And to think that now the International Criminal Court in The Hague wants to bring arrest warrants for Netanyahu and the leader of Hamas and several other top Hamas members. What in the world is going on where we are even paying attention to these people, and where in the world do they think they're going with this one world idea where they have a force and power and authority that subordinates the United States and the government of Israel?
Well, that's why they're doing it. That's why some schools. If you notice, the three places look very familiar: schools, hospitals, and prisons. As far as the layouts, they're just trying to make good workers, knowing they can maintain the power all of the time. So anything international. Like, my first question is, why does the UN have that really great property for free in New York? That place is awesome. We can make a lot of money and, maybe afford the migrants we're paying for. But anything international, World Economic Forum, all these, whenever Al Gore, Hillary Clinton shows up, John Kerry, it's probably not America first. It's definitely going to be about their power. Anything, anytime Al Gore living in his house with how many bathrooms and how many bedrooms, how many houses, but he starts talking and flying there in a private jet, and he says, well, we've all got to do our part. It's like, if my part's a G5 and a house like that, I'll do my part. But it's the international community. It's even easier for the international diplomats and politicians to steal our money than it is for our own politicians. And trust me, that's a lot.
A lot indeed. Rob O'Neill, as always, thanks for being with us. We appreciate it. Great to see you. And
thank you. Great to see
once
you.
Again, it's great to see you. And once again, we're in absolute agreement. I don't know how that happens, Rob. Thanks so much. Democrats style themselves as the party of compassion and all sorts of also, violence, arson, you name it. They do all of those things, but they couldn't care less about the people affected by their policies. Watch Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas, who said he doesn't know the death rate of illegal aliens trying to cross the Mexican drug cartel's border with the United States. Have a look.
All right. What percentage of people die trying to get into this country? They're shot by somebody or something?
I don't know, David, a percentage, but I will share with you, having spoken to families who crossed the Darien, the area between Colombia and Panama, the suffering and the trauma is extraordinary.
There are a lot of reasons not to like Alejandro Mayorkas, aren't they? Well, in other news, Joe Biden has suffered yet another brutal gaffe. Sunday, he claimed to have been vice president during the COVID-19 pandemic. Watch this, please.
And when I was vice president, things were kind of bad during the pandemic. And what happened was, Barack said to me, go to Detroit and help fix it. Well, poor mayor, he spent more time with me than he ever thought he was going to have to. God love you.
The man in the White House seems to have tapioca pudding for brains. Even Marxist-dim celebrities are turning on Joe Biden. In an interview with Rolling Stone, rapper Cardi B denounced Biden and said she wouldn't endorse a presidential candidate this year. Oh, no. The American body politic is quivering with disappointment. But no, Cardi B will not be recommending who we should vote for. She's no friend of conservatives, and she said that under Biden, people got betrayed. Yes, so did the country. And it goes on because of who you voted for. Remember that, Cardi B. And in Georgia, students at Morehouse College joined Cardi B in opposing Biden. Biden delivering a commencement speech at the historically black college on Sunday, but a lot of students weren't impressed. In fact, they were distressed. They turned their backs on Biden as he spoke. Watch this.
I mean it. It's a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. That's why I've called for an immediate ceasefire. An immediate ceasefire to stop the fighting. Bring the hostages home. And I've been working on a deal as we speak, working around the clock to lead an international effort to get more aid into Gaza.
Well, let's turn now from a president and a commencement, which was really sad to watch, actually. Let's turn to something really amazing and fun. It's a deal that Mike Lindell has created for you and for everyone. As you know, Mike Lindell has a passion to help you get the best sleep of your life. And after he invented the world's best pillow, Mike created the famous Giza Dream Sheets. They're the best sheets you will ever sleep on. I say it and I'll say it again because it is the truth. Your best night's sleep, though, just got even better. For a limited time, you will get those queen size sheets for $59.98 for an entire set. King size, just $10 more, the lowest prices in history. And Mike and MyPillow employees continue to be canceled by those big box stores and attacked by the left-wing creepy media. And they want to thank you by giving you free shipping on your entire order today. To get the best specials ever, go to mypillow.com or call 800-977-9152 and use promo code Dobbs. You'll be glad you did. You get the famous Giza Dream Sheets, queen size for only $59.98 and king size just $10 more. So call 800-977-9152 or go to mypillow.com, promo code Dobbs, that's DOBBS, to get free shipping on your entire order today. And yes, join us each and every day for the Great America Show. As we mentioned earlier, the International Criminal Court in The Hague is, well, they're looking to arrest people. They are looking for arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Gaza Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. And putting Netanyahu on the same level as a Hamas official of any kind is, of course, an insult. So is the idea of going after an arrest warrant. What ignorant fools are in The Hague? Why is anyone even paying attention to these idiots? Israel, for its part, is our ally. It's simply fighting for its right to survive. But Netanyahu knew the corrupt ICC would come for him. So he reportedly went to Joe Biden and asked for a little help. Now, I don't know how much help, really, Netanyahu could expect from this guy who wanted to have a two-state solution just within days of the massacre of October 7th. It's doubtful Netanyahu will find a steadfast supporter in Biden. But, you know, there are surprises plenty this year, aren't there? None of our allies can count on any kind of loyalty from this White House. To make matters in the Middle East even more tumultuous, confusing, and chaotic, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi killed in a helicopter crash. The best we know is that bad weather played a part in bringing down the aircraft, which was also carrying Iran's foreign minister. What does that mean for Iran, for Israel, the world? Joining us now to weigh in on all of this is Middle East expert Waleed Faris, a national security expert who served as a foreign policy advisor to President Donald Trump. Waleed, great to see you again. Let's start with the helicopter death, the killing of Raisi, and now a vacuum, it seems, at least at one level in the Iranian hierarchy. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Lou, on your show. There are a lot of questions still unresolved with regard to the actual death, the actual accident, incident. Many of my friends and colleagues who are in the field of investigation are asking, well, this passage has been used by many planes, many helicopters. This was a group of 3 helicopters. When one goes down, the 2 others are supposed to be circling around until rescue comes. But nevertheless, these questions are telling us that there is a possibility, probably 49% chance. We can't jump over the 50% before investigations, which are not going to happen because that's inside Iran. For a reason, first of all, it's easy to corrupt some of the elements of that helicopter. Already, it's a helicopter; it's not even a plane. Mm-hmm. But why these questions are being raised? It's because there is a problem inside the Iran regime. There is a competition with Raisi. The head of the regime, Grand Ayatollah Khamenei, is advanced in age and he has some sicknesses. His son is a candidate to replace him. The problem is that he needs to become a president of the Islamic Republic, that's the son of Khamenei, so he can jump to the other position. So people are talking about possibility that one wing, we call it the deep jihadi republic state, has done this to the president. But we will leave this on the side because no matter who's going to come to the presidency in 50 days, even before that, it's going to be either the same policy regarding US, Israel, our allies, Arab allies, and others, or a worse jihadi policy. So that's what we are looking at. Those who did, if they did that coup or that strike, are going to be even more severe, closer to Russia, closer to China, and then, of course, using the incredibly, wrong policy of the Biden administration against the United States.
Let me ask you this, because it seems over the past month, we've seen a quiet descend in the region. There's been a reticence, apparently, on the part of the terrorist groups, on the part of Iran, to do anything really violent and explosive as they had been doing regularly up until this past about 30 days. Is there something motivating this quiet in the region? And if so, what is it?
Lou, that's, we all know, the Floridians who've lived long enough, that this is called the eye of the hurricane. This is the between the two walls. So there are these periods of silence, being attentive to prepare for the next stage. And the Iran regime has done it over the past 10, 15 years. You and I have discussed many of these. So there was one like this before the October 7 attack. There is now one, and you're right, over the past few weeks, which probably going to include two things. Number one, this incident and the change of regime in Iran. So imagine if this is happening now, there are fights between the Islamic Republic and Israel, and that happened. That wouldn't be to the advantage of Tehran. Tehran wants calm everywhere, change their own regime or adapt it, and then resume. That's what I'm trying to project here.
All right. Well, Wally, thanks as always. We appreciate you being with us and look forward to our next conversation. Waleed Faris, thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Waleed, thank you. And coming up next, independent journalist Julie Kelly. She says Biden's Department of Justice is corrupted by partisan politics and has been for a very long time. They get away with it because the mainstream left-wing media covers for them. She joins us next. Representative Harriet Hageman of Wyoming says Attorney General Merrick Garland is covering for Biden's cognitive decline. Why else would Attorney General Garland ask to have the audio and video recordings of Biden's interview with special counsel Robert Hur suppressed? Well, that's obvious. What's not obvious is why there never seems to be any consequence for the Marxist Dem Party. Hageman said people like Garland can evade accountability because our institutions are thoroughly infected by leftists who protect one another. That's why Merrick Garland is so comfortable brazenly flouting the law and the Constitution. Independent journalist Julie Kelly put it best. If the Department of Justice didn't have double standards, it wouldn't have any standards at all. In a new piece, she makes the case that Biden's Department of Justice is thoroughly corrupted by partisan politics, and they get away with it because the mainstream national media is covering for them. Reporters today don't want to ask tough questions. They want to sniff the throne, she says. Kelly writes, quote, a reporter would have asked Garland why he should not be held in contempt of Congress for defying a House subpoena, while his prosecutors indicted both Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro for contempt after they defied subpoenas by the corrupt January 6th so-called Select Committee. Let's bring in now independent journalist Julie Kelly to take all of this up, and no one better to do it with than Julie. Julie, thanks for being with us. Let's turn to the issue at hand, and that is your most recent piece on the audacity of Merrick Garland. And I have to say, this man is contemptuous of everything, including apparently his own boss. Your thoughts about where this attorney general is right now in terms of the administration itself, in terms of his own vulnerability historically. He is an objectionable fellow, to say it nicely.
He truly is. And the piece you're referring to, I do have a lot of work at Real Clear Investigations. That's actually on my Substack, Declassified with Julie Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
So I write about Merrick Garland's antics last week, where not only he advised Joe Biden to invoke executive privilege to deny a House subpoena seeking the audio recording between Joe Biden and special counsel Robert Hur. Now, they already released the transcript, or what they say is representation of the transcript, but House Republicans want the audio version, and we know why. There are many points in the transcript where Biden is just meandering on and on about irrelevant things that had happened decades before. So we want to hear that because it speaks to directly why special counsel Robert Hur declined to bring charges against Joe Biden. Of course, you can't charge a sitting president anyway, but these could be delayed prosecution because he said he is, an old man with a failing memory. Well, if that is the basis for declining to prosecute Joe Biden while Donald Trump, has this prosecution in Florida for classified documents, then we need to hear what Robert Hur and his investigators heard. So Merrick Garland advising Joe Biden, which of course he took that advice, invoked executive privilege, preventing House Republicans from getting those tapes. But in the process, Merrick Garland somehow turns himself into the victim here instead of the perpetrator of the worst double standard of justice this country has ever seen. Merrick Garland gallingly pretends that he is somehow the victim of quote unquote attacks by House Republicans and conservative media. Just really outrageous stuff from the Attorney General.
It is outrageous, and it goes on. There is no accountability. There seems to be no way to extricate ourselves from the venality, the viciousness, and the destructive power that this Attorney General, this President, his entire Department of Justice are abusing daily. And do you think we will ever hold anyone to account? Will we be able to? Can we, in point of fact, in your judgment, now that you're watching all of this unfold in courtrooms from New York to Florida, is there any way in the world we can not be overwhelmed by it?
I mean, it's very discouraging to see Merrick Garland's behavior, his conduct, his comments. I posted over the weekend, Lou, on Twitter X, an example again of the Department of Justice's double standard. There was an arrest of a man from New York outside the DNC headquarters last November. He was participating in a pro-Hamas demonstration. He assaulted 2 Capitol police officers, including a female, who he punched in the face. Now, this man, instead of being thrown in the DC gulag, denied release pre-trial for years, then convicted and sentenced to years in prison, as I've seen happen with dozens of January 6 defendants accused of assaulting police. This individual, because he was promoting a cause near and dear to the heart of the Democratic Party, he gets a deferred plea agreement, 48 hours of community service, and if he fulfills that in 6 months, all of the entire case is dropped. That's just one example of the double standard that Merrick Garland and his apparatchiks like DC U.S. Attorney Matthew Graves, his prosecutor in Washington, are instituting. And they are the ones responsible for the cratering credibility of this DOJ that really jeopardizes our security here and our national security from foreign threats. Because all they're doing is focusing on how to run interference for the Biden crime family while doing whatever they can to take down Donald Trump, his associates, his family members, and now more than 1,400 of his supporters who have been prosecuted in this January 6th investigation.
And the court does nothing. And you and I have talked about this, but I really feel strongly that John Roberts, as the Chief Justice, has both the authority and the responsibility to step in and intervene in these cases that are manifest political corruption. whether it be frankly with Jack Smith, whichever judge in this country that is carrying out the latest outrage with this two-tier justice system that we have. Is there any hope that there will be inroads against, and I'm not asking to be defeated overnight, but at least inroads to halt the abuse of power by the lawfare attorneys and judges and prosecutors?
Well, there is one judge who is confronting this corrupt, dirty, sloppy prosecutor, Jack Smith, and that is Judge Aileen Cannon in Southern Florida. And that's why,
Right.
Lou, you see the knives out for her. What she is starting this week, and I will be in the courthouse on Wednesday, is a series of mini trials of sorts against the DOJ and Jack Smith. And she is really holding him to account. She filed an order Sunday night saying that she was very disappointed in Jack Smith and his selective use of protecting witnesses and grand jury material. You know, he was trying to conceal all of this evidence under grand jury secrecy rules, under witness protection and protecting witnesses from potential threats. But yet she caught him in a few instances where he's disclosing that information when it's fortuitous for the government and DOJ. So she called him out on that over the weekend. Wednesday will be this hearing. Walt Nauta, Trump's co-defendant, longtime aide who is charged in this case, a hearing on his motion to dismiss based on selective and vindictive prosecution. There will also be a series of hearings next month where the DOJ will basically be on the defendant's side of Aileen Cannon's courtroom. She is the one single-handedly exposing the corruption of Merrick Garland's DOJ and his appointed special counsel, Jack Smith, and Jack Smith's prosecutors. So at least we have some hope of transparency and accountability out of her courtroom. House Republicans are doing a little bit more now. They have opened an investigation into Jack Smith's confession, acknowledgement that they mishandled and possibly misplaced key evidence after the raid at Mar-a-Lago. So House Republicans are looking into that as well. But look, you know, there's really limited things that House Republicans can do at this point with such a slim majority and no executive branch authority, say at the DOJ. But I really hope that they are compiling a very long list of inquiries and investigations, including the Attorney General's office and the DC U.S. Attorney's office, and how they conspired and concocted these criminal indictments against Donald Trump.
And where do you think this is going to lead? The immunity issue before the Supreme Court, all of these cases scream for immunity for any president from these kinds of prosecutions. In my opinion, from just about any kind of prosecution by other jurisdictions, and certainly not by the federal government. I don't think it works with presidents. There's no countervailing influence against such abuses of power as it stands now. And the only countervailing influence I would see, Julie, is to make standard and forevermore a defense, an immunity defense for the President of the United States in perpetuity. Your reaction?
So I think that's a very good point, Lou. And I think this is why you see this escalating assault against the credibility of the Supreme Court, especially now the attacks on Justice Sam Alito and his wife, accused or caught hanging a U.S. flag upside down in protest to a very abusive neighbor, apparently, and also some other non-stories, but they're trying to attack both Sam Alito's credibility and, of course, Clarence Thomas, which has been an ongoing effort for the better part of 35, 40 years. Because they are concerned that this Supreme Court is going to come back and very narrowly tailor the presidential immunity question and where it would apply and where it wouldn't, and basically send that question back down to the lower courts, telling the judges in DC, you have to figure out what's presidential conduct, what is personal conduct. Then we will decide if immunity applies. They're very concerned that that is going to be the decision of the Supreme Court. This will further delay the proceedings in Washington on Jack Smith's January 6th indictment, which has been indefinitely postponed since late last year. They're also very concerned, and I'm talking about the media and others, that the Supreme Court will reverse the DOJ, Merrick Garland's use of 1512c2 obstruction of an official proceeding, which is that post-Enron record shredding statute passed after the Enron Arthur Anderson scandal, that this DOJ has applied to more than 350 J6ers, turning them into convicted felons, and the DOJ intentionally misinterpreting that statute to weaponize against J6ers. That also represents half of Jack Smith's 4-count indictment against Donald Trump in Washington. That could be a bigger blow to Jack Smith's case in DC than even an immunity ruling. So this is why you see this ramped up, escalated attack on the credibility of the Supreme Court, because they want to make it look like if these rulings come down and they're favorable to Trump or January 6 defendants, that it's all unlawful, it's not legitimate, because you have insurrection justices now, Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito, who are weighing in and balancing, tipping the balance as to where that opinion comes down.
It really is interesting. Why could we not have both? The rejection of the 5012, get also establish immunity, and I understand the niceties of remanding the case back to the lower courts, but the Supreme Court here could send a very powerful signal, particularly to the Marxist Dems who've been carrying out this egregious attempt to overthrow a president and to block his return to the White House. It's very straightforward. Give them immunity. There's still the right of the 25th Amendment, the right of, without question, to impeach a president. And that seems to me to be a very effective and actually a balanced place for the Supreme Court to come down. Your thoughts as we wrap up here, Julie?
Lou, I wish I felt that the Supreme Court had the spine to make such a bold declaration and ruling here, but I just don't. So I do think that they're going to kick it back to the lower courts to figure out what would be protected under immunity and what conduct wouldn't. But to your point, Trump's defense team has argued that any criminal conduct by a president is covered by impeachment and conviction. And of course, Donald Trump was impeached over the events of January 6th. He was not convicted. And so Trump's team has argued that is the way to penalize criminal conduct in office. This is a novel question. Of course, we've never faced this in this country before. And so the idea that this should be, what the media is saying, or Andrew Weissman, Rachel Maddow saying, this is a no-brainer. Of course, a president should be criminally prosecuted for his conduct in office. It's just not the case. This is another history-making decision as the DOJ and these courts try to carve out special rules for Donald Trump without considering the long-term consequences of what this means for the country as we continue to descend into this banana republic-style territory.
Right. Julie, as always, we thank you for being with us and appreciate it. Good talking with you, and I think you've given us a good sense of how complex the issues are and how important they are historically and in this presidential election year, critically important. Thanks so much, Julie Kelly. And turning now to some great deals. Mike Lindell, as you know, has a passion to help you get the best sleep of your life. After Mike invented the world's best pillow, he created the famous Giza Dream Sheets. They are the best sheets you will ever sleep on. Your best night's sleep is also getting even better. For a limited time, you will get a queen size set for $59.98, king size just $10 more, the lowest prices in history. Mike and MyPillow employees continue to be canceled by those big box stores and attacked by the left-wing media. They appreciate all of your great support during these times and want to thank you by giving you free shipping on your entire order today. To get the best specials ever, go to mypillow.com or call 800-977-9152 and use promo code Dobbs. You'll be glad you did. And you get the famous Giza Dream Sheets, queen size for $59.98 and king size just $10 more. So call 800-977-9152 or go to mypillow.com, promo code Dobbs, that's DOBBS, to get your free shipping on your entire order today. And please join us each and every day for my podcast, The Great America Show. Thank you for being with us. Join us here tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 Central. Former presidential candidate Tulsi Gabbard joins us to talk about this year's most critical presidential election ever. And we're also joined by former Major General of the U.S. Army, General Paul Valley. He'll join us to talk about woke ideology and its impact on our military readiness. And be sure tonight to stay tuned for the Mike Lindell Report. Mike has a great show lined up for you. Good night. Thanks for being with us. God bless you, and God bless America.
Mike Lindell here, and like you, I see our country being destroyed daily. We face massive economic issues, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, there are people in power who threaten the values that have made our country great. Well, I've been a believer in gold and silver for a long time, and I've searched for years for a partner that shares my values. Well, Genesis Gold Group showed me how easy it is to protect your IRA, 401k, or your retirement with gold and silver. Their faith-driven approach to service and stewardship is one that stands out from the rest. So call Genesis Gold Group now at 1-800-200-GOLD. That's 1-800-200-4653, or go to LindellGoldRush.com now.
3 years ago, FrankSpeech.com was launched during the height of mass media censorship to give voices back to those who had their voices silenced. Today, we stand